Lesson 2.4 is on multiplying integers, and in my opinion, multiplying and dividing is way easier than adding and subtracting. Remember, the essential question for Chapter 2 is what happens when you add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers. And we talked about a couple of different strategies for adding and subtracting integers, whether that's using a number line or maybe some manipulatives or thinking of story problems involving money. That's all different ways that you can add and subtract integers. Multiplying and dividing also have rules. When you multiply two negatives, you get a positive. When you divide two negatives, you get a positive. And when you divide and multiply a positive and a negative, you get a negative. Again, those are all rules. If you choose to remember those, that's fine. I'd like for you to develop the reason why those rules work. And on your note sheet for lesson 2.4, you have some multiplication problems to fill in the blanks. And we'll talk about that pattern that you hopefully notice when you are multiplying numbers. But the key concept is basically multiplying two integers with different signs. When you have a positive and a negative, your answer is going to be negative. A negative and a positive, your answer is going to be negative. So at the bottom of page 71, we have a positive number and a negative number. Our answer is going to be a negative 56. And a negative number and a positive number, our answer is going to be a negative 72. When the signs are different, the answer is negative. At the top of page 72, we're looking at example 2, and that's when you have two integers with the same sign. So whether the two integers are positive or the two integers are negative, the answer is going to be positive. So when we take a look at example 2, negative 7 times negative 5 is a positive 35. Negative 8 times negative 14 is a positive 112. Negative 5 times negative 11 is 55. Please record these answers on your note sheet. And negative 13 times negative 4 is a positive 52. For example 3, we're taking a story problem and then we are writing an expression. So in this case, a scuba diver descends from the surface at a rate of 7 feet per minute. And descending would be a negative number. So in this case, a negative 7. And then what's the scuba diver's depth after 15 minutes? 15 times negative 7 is negative 105 feet. That's the expression. And then the answer is negative 105, and that just means that the diver is 105 feet below the surface after 15 minutes. The next problem that we're going to take a look at is on page 73, example number 4. In example number 4, we're using the associative property to group numbers together. In method 1, notice that the problem is just grouped with negative 4 and 12, and associate those two together and then multiply by negative 5. Or the commutative property where we multiply 4 and 5 first and get a positive 20, and then 20 times 12 is 240. It's really up to you on how you want to do that. So in this case, we could take negative 7 times negative 6 to get a positive 42, and then 42 times 9 is the 378. In this case, you could take negative 4 times negative 5 to get a positive 20, and then 20 times negative 3 is a negative 60. It really doesn't matter how you group those because the multiplication problems follow the commutative property. You can multiply in any order, or you can use the associative property to group them however you want. You're still going to get the same answer. You might want to choose to group two negatives together to cancel out the negatives, or you might want to multiply two numbers that are comparable here, like they get a nice neat number like 4 times 5, which is 20. But it's all a preference on your part on what you want to do with that. For example 5, we're getting into algebraic expressions where we have variables involved with our multiplication. In 5a, there's really nothing we can do but simplify the coefficient of the y 6 and multiply that by the negative 3 out front to get a negative 18y. And in 5b, we can multiply the negative 9 and the 3 This is basically just an associative property problem. So we have -9, we have an x, and we're multiplying that by the 3, and we're multiplying that by the y. We're just grouping the 3 and the -9 to get -27, and then the x and the y are just going to be left out because we don't know their value. So the simplest form there is going to be -27xy, for example 5b. In example 6, we can simplify and then substitute numbers back in for our variables. So in 6a, we have 2rs, r is 5, and s is -10. So we have 2 times 5 times -10. And we can multiply however we want here. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times -10 is -100. 4ab, -8 is a, and -4 is b. Again, when you write that out, you have 4 times -8 times -4. And you can take 32 times 4 or -32 times -4. However way you work that out, you get a positive 128. Lastly, we're going to look at, oh, that was it actually, I'm sorry. Make sure you get those answers recorded on your note sheet and do the problems on the worksheet for homework, and let me know if you have any problems with multiplying integers.